Hello and welcome to the Irish Hunting Podcast, the no bullshit podcast for the outdoor enthusiasts. If you're into hunting, fishing, fine wines and even finer foods, you've come to the right place. So pull up a chair.
Welcome back to this week's episode number 83. On this week's episode, we talk to Adam Weis, aka Hooty Hoo. We talk firearms, ammunition, Adam's experience in building rifles, hunting around the world, and we have a little bit of fun too. Hope you enjoy this one, folks. And a huge welcome back. Hope everyone is well and is enjoying the run up to Christmas. We have a Christmas special for you this week. We have, of course, Adam Weis on, aka, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Hooty Hoo. This was a real honour to have this man on the show. We've been following him for a long time, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are. He's a huge following on YouTube. For anyone who doesn't know, check out his handle. It's Hooty Hoo. That's WHO_Who, T-E-E. Who, WHO. So yeah, you'll find him on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the usual kind of social media outlets. But YouTube is primarily his home. He releases one, if not two, episodes per day. He talks all things firearms, ammunition, hunting, building rifles. He's just an all-round gun guru. He's kind of legend in the firearms world. We had the honour of having him on, and we've been trying to organise this for the last couple of months actually, and we just wanted to get it right, and we thought Christmas would be the right time to splash it out, a Christmas special. So hopefully you enjoy it. Adam's a really cool guy. I talked to him off air a little bit before, a little bit after. He's just a down to earth, no nonsense, no bullshit, straight to the point kind of guy. We like that here in the podcast. So hopefully you enjoy that. There's a little bit in there about 6.5 Creedmoor. Obviously that's relevant to our own firearms here. And we go into a little bit of depth about the bit of criticism, I suppose, that the 6.5 gets, both here and across the pond. But look, no better man to ask than a man who's shot most rounds and has probably forgotten more about rounds than rounds that I could even list off the top of my head. So yeah, no better man. Hope everyone's as I say is keeping well, and in the run up to Christmas, hopefully you get a little bit of hunting in. I know it's a busy time of the year coming up to Christmas, but I'm looking forward to the break, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are. In terms of the club, all the pheasants have been released around now. We've just held back, as I said, a little bit for breeding next year. There'll be a little bit of vermin control over the Christmas. I think we have a fox drive on the 28 or thereabouts. So it's going to be a busy one. Hopefully get out for a few pheasant, and I'm mad to get after a woodcock after Richie Delaney's appearance a couple of weeks back. In terms of that, we have a few cool competitions coming up. We've obviously the IHP 24-hour challenge for anyone who hasn't registered yet. We're trying to get as many people on board here. It's bigger than last year. It's been bigger year on year. We've some really cool prizes in there. So if you want to throw your weight behind and get involved, raise a few bob for charity and have a really cool day's hunting. It's just something different. You get out in the morning, you get after your three species. We started off the first year pheasant, fox and a pike. Sounds really easy. Proved a little bit more difficult than it sounded. But for those of you who've avid hunters, I think it's something really cool. And if you can try and throw in a species that's is not your go-to, obviously if you're in an area high with population of foxes and stuff and you're finding that easy, obviously go out and get your fox. But if you can, throw in a kind of a left of centre. If you're deer hunt, obviously that's on the menu as well. Snipe, woodcock. I think myself and Robert last year we managed to get 7 or 8 species on the board, and we had a really cool year last year. So this year's going to be slightly different. We're going to get a little bit more interactive with people. So we're looking for you guys to send us in little videos, little clips, and we're going to share them out on the show as we go along that day. We're going to go out probably together that morning, do a little bit different, have a bit of crack, the two teams, try and go after a couple of species ourselves, but we're trying to spend a little bit more time getting interactive with you guys at home. So if you want to, you can send us in our clips, pictures, videos. Let us know how you're getting on throughout the day, how quickly you can do the challenge. Obviously on the morning of the challenge we'll release the buzzword. You'll have to write that down and show that in your picture beside your species to register that species. So what we'll do is when you have your 3 species, you'll send in your 3 pictures with the buzzword on the IHB 24-hour challenge 24-25 written on a piece of paper. Just take that as with the photograph in the challenge, and away you go. So it's really cool. We've had a lot of fun doing it over the last couple of years. Anyone who's entered it has said the same thing. It's been a really kind of cool, something fun. You get out with one of your mates, or if you want to do it on your own, you can. Get out with a team, throw us in a team name, a fun team name, and away you go. You won't regret it, I promise. It's really, really cool. It's just to encourage lads to get the boots on the ground after the big Christmas dinner and probably Stephen's Day, a heap of pints and stuff like that. We all feel a little bit stodgy, and so it's probably a little tradition that we're trying to get going here. And obviously all the proceeds, we're asking for a voluntary contribution towards the Irish Cancer Society, and they can be sent, if you look at our Instagram or Facebook, you'll see the link there. I have a vault set up on Revolut, and then when we have it all collected, I'll bang it across and I'll show the amount we're after raising for Irish Cancer Society. That's obviously a charity that's close to my heart here, so we try and do a charity run every year, as you know. So look at whatever lads can afford. We're not asking lads to spend the earth, but if you can throw a couple of euros a man into it, or even raise a few bob, get a few people behind you for your challenge, and then raise a few bob that way and send it on to us, it'll be great. It'll be really cool. We'll be killing 2 birds with 1 stone, literally, and then away you go. So we're looking for you to get behind that and have a good day's hunting. In terms of what was going on the last couple of weeks, myself, I haven't got out. I think I got out probably just after the Long Acre. I actually went out with the 2 dogs and I said I'd give them a run. I got very close to a woodcock. I actually got a couple of snipe on the day. I think I have the video, which I haven't uploaded yet. Yeah, 1 shot. The first shot, 1 snipe. The dogs were, I was really happy with my Springer. She was bouncing in now a cover, just on fire. And then she bounced into a bit of cover and there was a bit of a drop. So that kind of spooked her a little bit. So she went back a little bit for a while, but then come on again. So we're hunting on the bog in and around the header. I was after the woodcock, the elusive woodcock. Didn't manage to rise any, but we're going to keep going over the next couple of weeks. That's pretty much all the hunting I've got out. I'm mad to get out on a fox again, and possibly a deer. I know I've seen some of you guys posting lovely stags and so on and so forth, and obviously we're approaching the end of that season, so trying to get on another stag, maybe a little bit of fallow or a bit of red. Haven't had huge success with either of them species the last couple of years, so it's my aim to try and get back on them. So we've a little bit of new ground to explore as well. We've been invited down to Offaly and to hunt by one of my friends, so looking forward to that. Maybe might get down over the Christmas and get on a fallow, hopefully, fingers crossed. In terms of a couple of things, I just wanted to say, get a huge response over the last couple of weeks, both to the woodcock episode and to the Long Acre. Thanks to Richie and to Morris. In fairness, I know they're 2 completely different episodes, but I think a lot of things resonated to a lot of people in there. The woodcock obviously is it's like a cult following. And we're going to go back to that as well again in the new year, hopefully, if we can. We'll have a little competition running over the Christmas as well, just on that. So we'll have put together a little kind of goodie bag. The NARGC are going to help us out with that, with maybe a few bits and pieces there. We'll throw up a few questions about the episode. If you can answer them, a little bit of a like and share thing. And yeah, there'll be a few goodies in there for somebody over the Christmas. So we're going to be doing that. We're hoping, we've had tentative discussions with trying to get on maybe to chat about the Partridge Project in Ireland. And we've a few other big guests coming on in the new year, so stay tuned. I know it's been a little bit stop-start this year due to various reasons. I know I've obviously have a relatively newborn kid. Brenny's mad busy in work and so on. So I know it's been stop-start, but we're trying to nail it down, and we've a couple of little things coming on stream in the new year. So stay tuned for that. So hope everyone's enjoying the episodes. Keep tuning in. If you wouldn't mind, I suppose the biggest thing, obviously because we're firearms related and hunting related, we don't get the exposure that on social medias that other outlets do. So a lot of our content is actually hidden or restricted, so it's not getting the reach that is relative to, say, our downloads and so on and so forth, which is kind of a shame, and it's probably a slight on the way the world has gone. So, as I said that, a magpie flew by my window there, and I'm saying to myself, I've trapped 5 or 6 over the last couple of weeks, which we'll talk about just in a second. But yeah, if people could like and share, keep the word spreading. So if you go on Spotify or Apple, you can give us a rating. Just if you think we're a 4-star, 5-star, give us a bit of a rating. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you can. And obviously we're on TikTok, and we have a YouTube channel there with some cool videos as well. And we're going to be adding some videos over the next year or so, because what we're going to do hopefully is get a little bit more of our gear up there. So a little bit more reviews, testing, and so on and so forth. So we'll have that over the next couple of weeks. I'll be throwing up a couple of them over, as I said, next couple of weeks, and that'll keep people in the loop. So you're going to get a little bit of audio, obviously, on the podcast, and then you'll have the visuals on YouTube. So head over there, subscribe, just hit the subscribe button, and away you go. So really appreciate your support. Hope everyone has a great Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll hopefully hear you all soon in the IHP 24-hour challenge. So now we're going to bring you the episode with Adam. Hope you enjoy, folks. Over and out. Adam Weis, aka Hooty Hoo, welcome to the Irish Hunting Podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
All the way from, is it Nashville in Texas? Am I getting that right?
I'm probably like an hour's drive from Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's on my bucket list to get over there. That's I think it's the wannabe cowboy's dream, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. This is kind of the home of country music in most people's eyes.
How do you find it? Have you an alternative view on that?
Oh, I got a thing where I hate being in traffic with a car, and that is like the worst place to be for traffic. It 15, 20 years ago, it was a cool place to be and hang out and whatever. Now it's just like totally commercialized, and it's just a big tourist place, and it's full of people. It doesn't matter what day it is. It's just full of tourists and bad traffic.
People like
And
me who dream to get over there.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But it used to be you could park anywhere downtown. Now you can't park a mile from where you're trying to be, and they charge you $30, $40 to park there. So
Fuck.
it's just, you don't want to go there. I mean, it's probably cool to see once, that kind of thing, but
Yeah.
it's just a big, busy city now.
I can just imagine. I think it's everyone. I'd say a lot of people around the world have unless you've lived under a rock, have heard of Nashville. So I think you're probably correct. I think there's places over here where you have huge or high densities of tourist activity, and the locals are probably pulling their hair out saying, "Fucking tourists coming
Yeah.
over here." Just want to get
Yeah.
a beer, or just want to get down to town to do the shopping or the groceries or something. So, I can imagine. Going back, I think first question, man, Hootie Who, where did the name come about? How did you land on that?
Yeah, so I get asked that all the time, and it's honestly not that great of a story. But well, I used to work in a warehouse where we were essentially picking orders to be shipped, and we'd have these little scanner guns, that would scan the barcodes and whatever, and we were running around a bunch of racks and shelves and scanning the orders to be shipped, and that's just what you would yell to let everybody know the boss was coming, you know? As I just randomly one day decided today that's going to be the name of the show. But yeah, that we would yell that to warn everybody to behave, really.
Deadly stuff. Deadly stuff. Myself and a buddy of mine have a kind of code word. If we're in the car and there's somebody else with us, and just to warn the other person before you say something stupid, and we have a
Yeah.
code word. It's not exactly code. We've cuckoo cuckoo. So it
Yep.
doesn't go down too well with the other half, as you can imagine. Um,
Yep.
But WTW Productions, is that your full-time gig now, Adam? This is like I can only presume it is because you're releasing some amount of content daily, I think, isn't it? You release content.
Yeah. Yes. I
So
try to do twice a day, but sometimes I get too busy. But yeah, I've been doing it full time now for 3 years or so.
wow. So you're living the hunters and firearms holders dream, getting to test and get different. I follow obviously your videos and your builds and so on and so forth. Um, I think that's if you're growing up and you have a keen interest in firearms and hunting. I think you're living most of our dreams over there.
No, I mean, on the surface, it is attractive. But honestly, when people try to do it, they'll message me on Instagram or whatever, and they'll say, "I tried doing what you do, and you're a crazy person because I don't know how you do all those videos." And
Yeah,
it also costs an absolute fortune.
I
Like
can
if you
imagine.
just looked at, oh, every day has a new, gun or a new trip. Well, imagine you had to pay for all that and think about how much that would cost. It costs, one, it takes so much time to do it, and two, it costs so much money to do it. And people message me all the time. I don't know how you do it, or they'll say, "Oh, it must be nice. I wish I could shoot guns every day." It's like, well, I never sleep. I never do anything besides work. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
to do what I do, you almost have to be a crazy person.
Well, that's what they say.
And
Every CEO has a touch of the crazy about them because you have to be that way inclined, I think, to persevere when pretty much everyone would fucking give up a long, long time ago.
yeah, and there was, I said I've been doing it for 3 years full time. Well, there was 5 years before that where I had my full time job where I was working 60, 70 hours a week and then doing all that at night and on the weekends on top of that beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was an even crazier time.
Yeah, and I suppose I see it even with, like, obviously not to the same extent, but with the podcast and so on, we try and get one out every 1 or 2 weeks and get some content and organize people to come on and all that kind of stuff and scheduling. Um, and then you have the editing of the show and release and so on. And that all takes fucking time. And then if you miss a week, people are saying, when's the next one coming out? As if, it's just but and
Yeah.
it's enjoyable when you're doing it, but when you have to do it, it takes a little bit of the enjoyment away as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun. It could be a lot worse, but it definitely is a lot of work.
I can
And
just
if I
imagine.
miss one post, my phone will be ringing off the hook. Are you okay? Did you get in a car wreck? You never miss a show,
Yeah, yeah.
And my wife has been a saint too,
I was
Imagine
just
if
going to
you,
say that.
you go to your wife and say, "Hey, I'm going to go buy 100 guns." What would her answer be? And she's kind of quote unquote believed in me from the start, so
Absolutely.
that helps.
You need that, don't you? I mean, as you rightly said, for I suppose slightly different now in terms of it is the full-time gig, but I can imagine the previous 5 years, you're trying to hold down a job and pay the mortgage and pay
Yeah.
bills and keep all that side going, and then your hobby, I would have presumed, is guns, and then you're going to turn that hobby into some sort of an online presence as well. So you kind of three prongs there that you're trying to keep keep going, which is no mean feat.
And it was really going back to the start, it was really her idea because she was watching these families, just taking their kids to the zoo or whatever and filming it and putting it on YouTube. She said, "This is ridiculous. These people are getting famous and paying their bills just by filming themselves." So I told her, figure out what camera that they're using and I'll figure it out. So that's how it all started is every single day we would film like a family vlog, like, "Hey, we're feeding the kids, we're taking them to school," and it just slowly evolved into I started filming just whatever I was doing. And those videos are the ones that really took off.
Yeah,
We still upload some of the family vlog stuff, but I don't even have time to mess with it,
yeah,
really.
yeah. You're trying to
It's
keep
more
it
like for memories.
exactly, yeah, and you're trying to keep a little bit of your in unquote normal life separate to your what is now your
Yeah,
business, I presume. And speaking of that,
yeah.
just in terms of cameras, for there's a lot of people over here um, that try to record hunting trips and so on. What have you found to be the go-to camera, or has your camera equipment evolved as your YouTube show has evolved?
Yeah, so this may or may not surprise people, but I am not a camera expert. I am not an editing expert. I do all of it myself. I don't have anybody edit or film for me.
Yeah,
Um, I do not have a big money camera. I say big money camera. Like most of the hunting shows you see, people are using five to $10,000 cameras, sometimes more. I use well, going back almost a year now. I broke my most expensive camera, which was a Nikon P1000.
okay,
It has a it has a built-in uh, lens. So, the big money cameras, you have the camera body, right? And then you have all the different lenses to screw on the front, which can get very expensive.
yeah,
That's what the professionals use. I have never once had one of those cameras that has a body and lenses. I
wow,
said, that's too annoying. But what I found was that Nikon P1000, it has a built-in zoom lens where you can film up close, but then you can also film like I could film a deer getting hit 1,000 yards away or 1,000 meters. So I love those cameras, but the last one I have broke almost a year ago, and since then I have filmed every single one of my videos with a cell phone, which is a 5-year-old cell phone, and then some GoPros, which everybody knows is familiar with GoPros.
yeah,
But um, what I did in my previous life, I worked for a couple phone app companies and also cell phone insurance companies to the point where because of my job, I became a super nerd about cell phones. So I'm a little bit removed from it now, but I used to be able to tell you everything about every cell phone out there because it was part of my job.
but
Um,
so you've
so I
said,
know what the cameras are and all this. But yeah, but they used to make a phone that had a really good camera, and now you can't even buy them. But I went out and bought this cell phone about a year ago. Told my wife, I don't want to go spend $5,000. Like I want to upgrade to like the movie quality cameras, but I don't want to spend the money. So I'm going to be cheap and start using this cell phone and just see what happens. If people hate it, I'll go spend the big money on the cameras. If people can't tell a difference, I'll keep using this phone. Well, I even had people say, you must be using a new camera because it looks even better. I'm like, yeah, I'm using a cell phone.
Wow.
So almost all of my new stuff going back a year and sooner, I filmed it with a cell phone.
Very good. And that's look from a perspective of what we do, that's because like that, it's like a minefield. You go online and you start to look at, you're trying to film a hunt, or maybe trying to film a little video to go along with it, some of the content and so on. And you can go down a rabbit hole, and every person is telling you, this is the way to go. And as you rightly said there, you could quite quickly, and you wouldn't be overspending in camera terms, throw 10K at a setup. But to hear that you're putting out the quality and caliber content you're doing on cell phone is phenomenal.
And
Phenomenal.
people ask me that all the time. So I wish I could do what you do, but I can't afford the cameras. It's like, hey, guess what? Neither can I. If you have a
Yeah.
phone, which everyone has a phone, you can film videos. And there's free apps. I use a free app on my phone to edit all the time.
Okay. What kind of app? What app is that? Do you mind me asking, Adam? I'm going to steal some of
Oh
your
no,
ideas here.
I'm pulling it up on my phone right now. It's called YouCut. Youcut.
Brilliant. Because like anyone who follows you, obviously, from your promo videos to your actual videos, they're like, you would not. I'd say there's a lot of people now fairly surprised, that you're using, as I'm not saying it's a basic, but you're using what we all have kind of day to day. So that's good to hear,
You
man.
might even
That's
have a better phone than I do, you know?
There
The
you
the
go.
phones that have come out in the past 2 years have better cameras than the one I'm using. So
There you
I'm
go.
just too cheap to pay that big money for them.
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you. I find it hard myself. Um, you're a Remington ambassador, is that correct?
Remington ammunition, yes. The firearms is separate now, been sold off, but the Remington ammunition, yes,
Yes. And
I
how did
shoot
that
for them.
come about, Adam?
So I'll take it even a step back further. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people assume that it is very easy to get sponsored by companies, and I most people will not tell you the truth. And in some regards, I begin to tread lightly when I talk about this stuff, but I don't like doing that. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
Everything's black and white with me. If I tell the truth all the time, I don't ever have to worry about what I told this guy versus this guy. So,
I hear you.
as, as broadly speaking, it is pretty difficult to get sponsored by anyone in the outdoor industry.
Yeah.
So, what I mean by that is it's not common sense. So, in my previous jobs, working for companies, big in statistical analysis and analytics, and based upon XYZ data in the company, giving proposals to CEOs and VPs on we should take the company this direction, that sort of thing, based on this data, right? Everything's pretty logical.
Yeah.
Well, in the outdoor industry, it's all relationship based to where, oh, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago, I was extremely gung ho about I'm going to contact Ruger and I'm going to contact Hornady and I'm going to contact all these companies. I get more views than the people that they currently sponsor. So it's going to be a no-brainer, right? I'm
Yeah.
going to produce all this content for you guys and I'm going to do it cheaper than what you're paying these other people who get, 10% of the views that I get. And I kept getting the door slammed in my face, slammed in my face. Everybody tell me no. Everybody tell me no. I can tell you right now, a list of 100 people that are getting six-figure contracts from these companies that get 10% of the views I get. But they're friends with the people.
Yeah.
It's the same with I had this conversation with a guy off record last night. Well, I see this company going on hunts all the time. How come they never take you? Well, I don't know them. Like they're using their marketing dollars to take themselves and their friends hunting,
Yeah.
as opposed to spending it wisely and getting a great return on investment and viewership with their marketing dollars. They just take their marketing dollars and they take themselves hunting and take their friends and their cousins hunting. And
Potentially,
I
yeah.
could tell you, I could tell you an example of one company. Um, I heard they had a new rifle come out, and I said, "Hey, I don't want you to pay me. I just want you to send me this rifle, and I will send it back. But I'll film the rifle. I'll film a bunch of ammo tests. I will take it hunting. You'll probably get 7, 8 videos out of this, and it won't cost you anything but the shipping of the rifle." They wouldn't even reply to my emails, and they know me. I've emailed them, talked to them on the phone. They wouldn't even reply to my emails. They then took that gun, and the guy took one of his friends hunting who has a quote unquote YouTube channel, and they spent $30,000 on this hunt to shoot one animal, and the video got 800 views. Now, that to me, that's 1,000% illogical
Yeah,
and makes no
crazy.
sense. If I was that marketing guy's boss, I would say you're fired and you're not using our funds wisely. Like the return on that investment, you spent 30 grand to get 800 views. Are you an idiot? You know?
An idiot. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
And
make sense, does it?
but that's how it goes. It's a very old school mentality of you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, and let's
Yeah.
just go have a bunch of fun and blow a bunch of money.
Yeah, and it's probably look obviously in the last number of years, probably like since the Steve Ranella and stuff like that. I mean, the hunting has kind of become more mainstream and more visible, and obviously different brands have evolved. And I know across Europe and stuff, it's big business now, But like that, like what you said, probably has stuck with that kind of the older mentality of we'll get the few of the boys together, we'll go out and do a bit of a hunt, and we can test the gear ourselves, kind of jazz.
And I have 100 examples that are exactly the same story, but that's just the way it is. So, the past 2 or 3 years, I've just pretty much thrown my hands up. If somebody happens to call me and we want to do some business, well, that's fine. But it's almost 99.99% unfruitful for me to just go send out a bunch of pitches and try to work with people because
Yeah.
I've shook every hand there is to shake almost, and nobody cares. You got to have that relationship. Going back to you said Remington, that came about because I had a mutual friend who did business with them already, and he told them, "Hey,
You need to get
I
this guy.
really like this guy Adam. He works really hard. I think you should talk to him." And they said, "Okay." And I went down and hung out with them for a couple days, and I didn't even know it was essentially an interview. I just thought I was taking a tour of the plant, but from their perspective, it was an interview to hang out with me. And following that, they said, "Oh yeah, we like this guy too. Let's do some business with him." Um, and that's how that came about. Just because I knew somebody who knew somebody, and literally anything of that sort that has come about out of me working with a company has been that way. Never once have I ever gone to a company and said, "Hey, I think we should do some business. I'll film videos for you." Never one time has it ever worked for me. It's always been
Even
somebody knew somebody
knew
who
somebody.
introduced me or something.
And
Yeah.
even there, as you rightly said, when your buddy introduced you to them, it was still it was the personal relationship that probably got it over the line more so than the your actual your pull in terms of like I mean you've over a 500,000 subscribers, I think, on YouTube, and you're releasing content daily. So as you said, there's nobody going to touch you in terms of work ethic and what you're producing and putting out there, or very little anyway. So it's you would think it would be a no brainer for the big brands to be knocking on your door and say, "Here, try our new rifle or try our new ammunition." But yeah, it doesn't seem to work that way. It's probably similar enough over here, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's really that way even outside of the hunting and shooting industry. That's essentially the way that the world works. Um,
It's not what you know, it's who you know. Isn't that what they say, Adam?
yes, exactly. That's
Good, good.
exactly. Right.
Bring you back. We'll rewind even further than that. How did you first get into uh, firearms or hunting? Was it hunting first? Was it love of firearm, or was it both? Um, how did your child, was it in your childhood or was teens? When did that start?
Yeah. So it would be easy to assume that I grew up hunting and my family hunted, but that's not the case. So we never had guns. We never shot when I was a kid. Um, we just didn't. So I was a forklift driver at a distribution center for a grocery store called Aldi's here. Um, and we were just outside on break, and these guys were talking about deer hunting. And this old guy, I say old guy, he's probably 65. He said, "Hey, have you ever hunted?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, would you like to?" I said, "Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool." And I think I was about 20 or 21 years old. And this guy, he sold me a muzzleloader rifle for $100, showed me how to load it. He took me out and showed me some public land hunting spots where anybody can go hunt. And I started hunting just on my own with the rifle that he sold me. And I didn't shoot anything that first year, but the very next year in the off season, I had bought a bow and arrow from a pawn shop, and I shot my very first deer from the exact spot where he showed me where I could hunt on public land. So it was just a random guy at work who showed me a place to hunt. And I ended up shooting a bunch of deer with that gun and from that spot that he showed me over the years. But yeah, it was just a random guy at work that kind of introduced me to hunting.
Wow.
And I was hooked on it.
Straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's look at. I think that probably similar to my own story. I started kind of later on in life as well, but and from the very first moment I picked up the shotgun at the time, it was love at first sight, and it was onto to other pastures, and I've never looked back since. But did you start? What would I say? Like that was the beginning, and how then did it evolve into, like, to put it in perspective? How many guns roughly do you have now, Adam, in your possession or in your ownership?
That is a secret, my friend.
Well,
Partially because I don't want people knowing. I don't want people kicking my door in, and partially I don't want the government knowing either. You know what I'm saying? We don't
yes,
have
yeah.
to divulge that information, but
Over here,
it's a lot more than I used to have.
I would imagine. I think gun ownership, obviously over in America, is a lot different than in Ireland. Like, I would have three firearms here, and I would be considered to, have above the average, above five firearms here, and you have to jump through, like, even to get one here is difficult. You could be waiting up to, in some cases, over a year and a half to get one firearm. So um, I'm always fascinated in the States. It's a lot more. The process is a lot more seamless, and it's a lot easier to acquire. So
Yeah,
um,
and I have no idea on like your perspective. It's always interesting to talk to people about it. So some people just assume like, America, like just go to the store and get guns. Like, yes, today I could go to the gun store and I could buy any gun I want and I could bring it home with me today. If you have the money, you could buy the guns. But we do have to pass a background check every time.
yeah,
I mean, and if you're a criminal, they're not going to sell it to you, because they have to check your background check with valid ID and all that stuff. So, I mean, yeah,
like,
it's easy to get guns, but they're not handing them out like candy. You have to be like upstanding citizen per se.
yeah, yeah. Even over here, even if you've all things being equal, like, I'll give you an example, and this will probably shock you, but for a simple substitution, if I went in with my shotgun today, it's not like it's an over the counter transaction or anything like that. I have to drop in my old shotgun first. You have to fill out an application, then based on the new shotgun, you'll have to send that off to um, the Gardaí, which is the police force over here. and then
Mm-hmm.
you'll have to sit there and wait until they see fit for um, to process that application, and that could in like that could I've been lucky enough in recent times. My local firearms officer is pretty good, and you get it in a couple of weeks. But in some terms, people have been waiting up to 6 months to a year for that substitution. So um, it's a pretty prehistoric type of a system we have over here. Um, I can understand if you're going in with a you know a 2.2 and you're looking for a 30-06, or you're going from a small caliber up to a higher caliber, and you would understand there would be questions of why you need that caliber and so on and so forth. But if you're looking for a straight substitution, it should be little bit more seamless over here. And definitely, even with a shotgun, you have to have landowners' permission, and there's forms coming out of your ears by the time you get through it. So it's really kind of archaic, the system over here. We haven't moved with the times at all.
That would
I,
that would
I
going from what we do to that would drive me bananas.
oh
We
I
were
would
we were actually we were hunting in South Africa in August,
I seen it.
and so for me, I took two rifles and two suppressors. Very seamless. You fill out a form. When you get to the airport in South Africa, the police look at it and say, "Yeah, these are the serial numbers you put on your paperwork." It literally took 5 minutes. No problem.
Yeah,
But when we were looking over there, the cost of living is so cheap. Like for my house in the US, for the same money, I could live in like a huge castle on a big piece of land with hundreds of acres in South Africa. So my wife is like, why don't we move to South Africa and bring the whole family? It's so cheap. We could all retire in a couple years, you know? I said, because you can't have guns here. They're similar to kind of what you're saying. Like, you could only have a couple of guns and it's a huge hassle. And even then, she's like, well, go to America and film 100 videos and then we'll go live half the year in South Africa. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But
yeah. It's
maybe
fun.
someday.
Look, I'm going to talk about a little bit about that hunt, because I followed that one through your channel and stuff. I just that the process of bringing rifles out of the country again. We had a similar. We had a trip to Hungary there, just literally a couple of months back, on a hunting trip, and like that, we found the process surprisingly seamless. And we've talked about it in the show.
Yeah.
Ironically, getting in now with different countries with firearms, which you would think would be the difficult part, was actually pretty seamless. Um, which was cool. But and then you go to get a firearm over here, and you have to jump through hoops. You would imagine walking into a public airport with a firearms on your back would be, or in your case, would be the most difficult part. But it's not. It tends to be
Yep.
the most seamless part. In terms of South Africa, how did you find the hunting over there?
So I absolutely loved it. But it's kind of interesting. So a majority, and I've only been over there one time, so I'm not speaking as an expert. I'm just speaking of what I understand from my one time of being there. But how they do most of their hunting is on what they call concessions, which here in the US they call it high fence hunting, which a lot of people frown upon that. Essentially someone owns some land and they put up high fences and the animals can't get away.
Yeah,
Where in South Africa, that's how a majority of the hunting is done, where it might be 2,000 acres or whatever, 5,000 acres, but at the end of the day, the animals are in a giant pen. And that's how South Africa does a lot of their hunting. Now, they do have, stuff that is not that style, but more often than not, if somebody's hunting in South Africa, that's the type of the place that they're hunting in.
yeah. And to talk us, I suppose there's two sides to that coin. We've touched on it here a couple of times. But we it's good to hear somebody who's actually been over there and been through it. There's obviously the high fence hunting, right? As you rightly said, there's people who frown upon it, but then there's also the other side of that where the money that's generated from the high fence hunting goes back into local communities for conservation and for food and for families and so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people throw around the word conservation, um, but that's essentially what it is. Like they they want to properly manage the animal numbers just like we do here because that's what's bringing in the money.
Yeah,
If people weren't hunting, then what else would they be doing, you know? Especially in the large amounts of money that people are willing to pay for some of this stuff.
yeah. I mean,
But
I'm sure it generates huge income in places where there's very little other sources of real income, I would imagine.
yeah, I mean, where we were in South Africa was 5 hours drive from the airport, like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
There would be nothing else that people are doing out there besides farming. But even at that, you got to be a landowner and do the farming yourself. But
yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm not a huge expert on it, but uh, I love South Africa.
And of course, then there's the other side as well, where if there wasn't this um, industry over there, then I suppose poaching, etc., would be rife. There would be no control on herds and animals and stuff that need to be controlled in terms of numbers. And as you pointed out, a lot of them are farmers, so it would be pretty counterproductive to have huge herds of animals traipsing through their farmland. So they can kind of control it a little bit more if they have the influx of hunting tourism, and they can utilize that money then to to essentially better people's lives over there, which it has to be a good thing. Um, what animals did you hunt
Yeah,
over there, Adam?
absolutely. And this is a so
Sorry, man.
I took five animals, see if I can remember them all. Blesbok, which I had never seen one of those before, never even heard of that. It's kind of like a big antelope.
Yeah,
Uh, I took a blue wildebeest. That's a more common animal. Um, I took a impala, and then I took a zebra,
very good.
and also a little small deer called a steinbuck, little bitty deer.
And come here, you
But it's super interesting because in my mind, it's like I had gone there to take four animals, but it's when you get there, you see so many animals. If I shoot this, what is it going to cost me? And in the like from my perspective, there's lots of places to go hunt in the US, but it's terribly expensive.
yes,
It's almost gotten to the
just lost you there for a second, Adam. Are you still there?
like where I live, there's a couple small pieces of public land that you can hunt, but they don't have any deer on them. So if you don't own land and you have to drive to hunt deer or turkeys, you have to go very far away to go have a place to hunt. But over there, like a deer hunt in the U.S., average would cost you like $4,000 U.S. Well, over there in Africa, you could shoot an impala for like $300 or $400, and the zebra costs like $1,000 or $1,200. So it's like you could shoot one animal in the U.S., or you could go to Africa and shoot seven or eight for the same price.
Same price. Yeah, and I've heard
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like we've looked at both sides. Obviously, we talked to your um your fellow countryman, Adam Grenda, going back a while ago, and we were just asking in terms of prices of certain animals, and 30, 40, $50,000 in some cases for certain animals. And as you rightly said, that's one animal. Um, you know what I mean? That you go over to South Africa and you've probably pulled off 4 or 5 animals there for well under 10K, I would imagine.
Oh, it was under five.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go. And in terms of
man.
you brought the 6.5 Creedmoor with you on that trip, I think. Is that correct, Adam?
Yes, 6.5 Creedmoor and also 30-06.
30-06.
Which that's kind of a funny story. I could tell that story really quick. So, um, I had talked to Savage previously before that trip and essentially told them, "Hey, I'm going to Africa. Would you guys be interested in helping me like buy the plane tickets and stuff? It's going to cost me some money, but if you want to do that, I'll hunt with Savage rifles." And they said, "Sure, we'll help you pay for the trip." That's the most expensive part, really,
Yeah,
is the plane tickets. Uh, Especially depending on which seat you pick. And I took my wife, so I didn't want to put her back in the sardine can in the back of the plane, so we got a little bit better seats. But anyways, um, so I took Savage rifles, and I asked the outfitter in South Africa, for advice. I've never been in Africa, and I've never hunted these animals, so what would you recommend? And they pretty much more or less said bring Magnum rifles, like a 300 Win Mag or a 7 Remington Magnum, or that's what they typically hunt with. He said maybe, 30-06 maybe. A lot of people hunt in South Africa with 30-06. Some of these animals are big. I mean, a zebra, that's a big animal, or,
the big
or a
animal.
wolf. So
Yeah,
that's why I told Savage, like, hey, send me some Magnum rifles. Well, they said we want you to take this 6.5 Creedmoor and this 30-06. And I said, well, those are both smaller kind of than what I wanted to do, but
sorry, Adam, we just lost you, I think, again there, man. The network is just a little bit unstable here for some reason. Sorry, Adam, we lost you there just for a quick second.
hey, I got you back now.
Sorry, man. Yeah, just rewind. Savage, we're talking about the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 30
Yeah,
6.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Yeah, so they said, oh, no one has ever hunted with a 6.5 Creedmoor here, and we don't want you to. And we went back and forth quite a bit. And finally, the guy who was like the liaison for this place, he said, listen, Adam can shoot, and you have my word that he can shoot. Because they were very afraid of me wounding animals.
Yeah.
They like people to have the big guns there. And finally, they came around and said, okay, but only because you gave us your word that Adam can shoot. So when we get there, I'm kind of feeling it out, and the guys that were the PHs or professional hunter there, he was such a fun guy. And the more I got to know him as the days went by, like I started joking with him more to where uh, I ended up shooting 3 animals with the 6.5 Creedmoor. The Blessbach drops right where it stood. The Steinbuck is a little deer, so that didn't really matter. But then I shot my Impala, and it only ran 50 yards. So, but it was kind of funny because when we got on both the wildebeest and the zebra, which are large animals, we're riding around in the truck, and we're about to make a stalk on them, and both of them, I look at this professional hunter guy, the guide, and I said, just joking with him, I said, I'm going to grab the 6.5 Creedmoor. And on both of those, he's like, no, you're not. You better grab the 30-06. But it was funny just joking with them. But
Joking. And
they had never had anyone hunt with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
come here, just on that. Like I hunt here with a 6.5. I was 6.5 55 previously, and now I have a 6.5 Creedmoor. How do you find the Creedmoor, Adam?
So I had never hunted with it before Africa, if you believe that.
Okay.
But I had done a bunch of target shooting with it, like shot it out to 1,000 yards, and but I had never hunted with it. But if you think about it, so 6.5 Creedmoor, you're normally hunting with a projectile that's 120 grains up to like 143 grains, sometimes a little bit bigger. Well, if you compare that to like a 243 Winchester, like it's got more power. It's a bigger bullet, right? So why shouldn't it work?
Yeah.
So to me, it all comes back to what bullet are you using? Are you using a good hunting bullet? And also, can you shoot?
Yeah.
And can you put that bullet where you want it?
Yeah.
Does your rifle like that bullet? So if you've practiced and you can group well with it, I don't have a problem with anybody hunting with 6.5 Creedmoor. And I'm on the fence right now. I have an elk tag for January next month. I'm debating on taking the 6.5 Creedmoor to shoot an elk, which is a big animal, just because I know it'll be controversial. But I used it in Africa. It worked great on big animals,
Yeah.
but I put the bullet exactly where I wanted it every time, you know?
Yeah. Well,
But when
similar.
they had these people come to Africa, I th I think they want these people to bring a big gun because they're leery of them and their shooting abilities.
Yeah, I think that is generally the case that it's what would you say? It covers a multitude of um, insufficient. You know what I'm saying? They don't know that Adam or Anthony, or they don't really know, can this man put the bullet where he says he wants. So go for a bigger caliber, and it'll kind of it'll it'll color in all the gray areas. If that makes sense. Um,
Yep.
but like what you said, I've had similar here. Like we hunt. There's three different types of deer here, and we went to Hungary and we hunted with a 6.5 on wild boar and also big red deer. So like, and they're a big animal. Like that's a bigger animal than a zebra, I presume. I haven't seen a zebra in the wild, but I would know that it would be definitely similar, if not bigger, and full of
Yeah.
testosterone, and like that, 25, 30 yards and dropped, if the bullet is put where you want the bullet to go. So I would agree with you on that. If lower caliber, and one goes into the engine room on point, he or she is not going to run too far after that. Um, but I suppose, as you rightly said, and come here, have you decided yet? Are you still in the debate stage as to whether you'll bring the 6.5 with you on that trip?
I'm still debating, but that's what I'm leading towards. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see that,
Um,
man. I'd love to see that, because that's
you
uh,
also how they do our hunting regulations is by state. So I live in Tennessee, and most of the elk are out west of the western side of the country. But every state has its own set of hunting regulations. What gun you can use, the caliber, so on and so forth. So everywhere in the southeast where I live, you can you can deer hunt with anything as long as it's center fire. So I've taken several deer with 22 to 50 and a 50 grain bullet, which is even smaller. That's a third of the size almost of a 6.5 Creedmoor. And
yeah,
people think, "Oh, you're crazy. You hunt with that?" Yeah, you want to see the video proof? Like, we take big deer with it.
yeah,
But all the states out west, some of them you can't even use a 243. They make you use even bigger, but generally speaking, out west, elk and deer hunting, you have to use at least a 243. But
there you go. And I would presume back in
we'll
the day.
see. I haven't decided.
Yeah, I'll follow that with great interest, because obviously I have one myself. So, um, And there's a huge kind of debate going on. Kind of, I think it's probably global, but it gets the round gets a lot of stick over here. With all kinds of memes and jokes about it and so on and so forth. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think probably a little bit unjustly. And like that, I think if it depends. A lower caliber in the right hands is probably more beneficial than or is more beneficial than or more lethal than a higher caliber in untrained or you get where I'm going with that. I
Yeah,
think it's down to
absolutely.
the man behind the wheel, or the woman.
Yeah,
Talk us a little bit.
absolutely.
It's something we don't have over here, and that is whitetail. Sorry, whitetail obviously is one, and then turkey hunting is second. Um, but whitetail, do you get out after them much, Adam? And tell us a little bit about, or if you have an interesting hunt that you've done recently, um, talk us through it if you would.
Yeah, so we could talk about this for days. So in the US, there's turkeys pretty much everywhere. Not to say in large numbers, but no matter where you live in the US, there are turkeys in your state. It wasn't always that way, but today there's quite a bit of turkeys. Like I could drive down the road here and probably we could see some turkeys just from the road anywhere.
And you said there,
And
sorry,
where I live,
you mentioned there that wasn't always the way. Why was that, Adam? And why was there um a resurgence?
well, honestly, I'm not
You don't know.
educated very well to even talk about it, but
Okay.
presumably for overhunting.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know the numbers and the years off the top of my head, but I don't even know when to guess. But the turkeys were almost extinct. Um, I couldn't tell you the year, maybe a
Yeah.
hundred years ago, probably less than that.
And it's taken a
But through,
resurgence.
the conservation efforts and the licensing and all that stuff, have come back pretty good to where, like I said, we can see them all over the place here.
Brilliant.
But in my state, again, every state's different. In my state, we can get two turkeys in the spring and one in the fall. So this year, I think I shot three turkeys. I
Wow.
just shot one in the fall not too long ago.
And I've seen you use callers
Kill deer exists pretty much across the entire United States. Um, I'm trying to think of a state that doesn't have them, and I can't think of one. Their
your go-to deer.
territory is quite extensive for white-tailed deer. But then we also have elk, and then we have mule deer. But the mule deer you're not really going to see in the east. They're all out west, like west of the Mississippi River
Is where you generally get them. So you're just coming and going a little bit there, Adam. I don't know whether it's
it all the hunting depends on your access. So, for example, I have access to a piece that's like less than 10 acres. So how I hunt that property, I'm sitting up in a tree waiting for a deer to come by. Uh, a lot of whitetail hunting is done that way from a tree stand where you either take your stand in with you and climb a tree that you think is on a good deer path, um, and you sit there all day, essentially. That's a lot of how whitetail hunting is done, is up in a tree or even on the ground, just sitting in one spot. You
okay.
can hunt them with what most people call still hunting, just walking through the woods real quiet. But then again, if you're going to hunt that way, you have to have access to a very big piece of property where you can move around that much.
Yes.
So a lot of how you hunt is dependent on the access to the land that you have to hunt. If
Okay.
it's a big piece of property, then yeah, you probably can move around and glass with binoculars. But out west, where the mule deer are, and some whitetail, it's a lot more of just driving around and using your binoculars to spot them. Well, I shouldn't speak so specifically. So On private land, you can do whatever you want. So I've hunted mule deer and elk on private land where you could drive your truck down through the private land, get that truck within 300 yards, get out and shoot the mule deer.
Okay.
But if you're hunting public land, almost all of the public land in the U.S., you're not allowed to use motorized vehicles. So if you're hunting public land for some mule deer, you might have to walk in 3, 4, 5 miles just to find the deer.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a lot of regulations, um, depending on where you are and what you're allowed to do. But that's a kind of a blanket statement. If you're hunting whitetail, you're probably in a tree or sitting still. If you're hunting mule deer or elk, you're covering a lot of ground and trying to find them.
Find them. Very good. Yeah. We've probably we don't we've no public land that we can hunt on over here. It tends to be small patches of leased land, forestry, and you can rent the lease rights off that for a season. But we've no public land per se that you can go out and hunt. It's down to local farm access and landowners access and so on. So slightly different. But the turkey. Sorry, Adam. We lost you just there again for a second, Adam. I think. Sorry, we just dropped out. I think there's a few gremlins in the system here. We're back. Can you hear me okay now? You can?
I got you.
Sorry, my man. That's the joys of trying to connect a couple of thousand miles away from each other.
Yep.
Yeah, so you I don't know where you heard me there in terms of the public and private land over here and the kind of the slight differences and so on.
Yeah.
Turkeys is and I know this might sound, obviously it's the time of the year to be talking about turkeys over here, but that seems like a really cool. I've watched some online and on the TV and so on. Talk us through your preferred method of hunting and calling turkeys, if you would.
I am not a great turkey hunter at any stretch of anyone's imagination. So
Okay.
I just started like halfway seriously turkey hunting. I've always been a deer hunter for I've shot more deer than I can even remember.
Yeah.
But turkeys, between me and my sons, I don't even think we've shot 10 all combined.
Okay.
Just in the past 2 or 3 years, I've started seriously turkey hunting. And to be quite honest, I only started turkey hunting just for the, if you want to call it street cred, like
And,
just because it looks good. Like, oh, this guy's a hunter. He's cool too because he's making videos shooting turkeys.
yeah.
So I never even really had the desire. To me, they're kind of like dumb birds.
Yeah.
But I started seriously turkey hunting a couple years ago just because it looks good on paper and makes me sound like more of an outdoorsman. Some people love turkey hunting like I love deer hunting.
Yeah.
Me, I just kind of started doing it because it would look good that I was filming turkey hunting videos, but I'm not an expert. I've got, 3 or 4 different type of calls in my bag, but I halfway don't even know what I'm doing. I just go find where the turkeys are and start making attempts at making turkey sounds and then shoot the turkeys.
Yes.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I I can't even I can't even sit here and try to tell you about good tips for turkey hunting because so many people would be listening and who are great turkey hunters and say this guy's full of garbage because I really don't know too much about it.
But I think look,
But like I said, we shot quite a few this year, but
yeah. It must be. Did you get on a turkey that was coming to your call, or did you just happen to be lucky to stumble across one, or what way did it play out?
so probably 50-50. Like half of them just finding the birds, and then the other half is finding the birds and calling them in. Like
Yes.
it's the same with deer hunting. You're not going to shoot any deer if you're hunting a place that doesn't have deer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to find where they live first, and then try to get halfway close to them and call them in. But
Call,
probably
call 'em.
50-50.
Yeah.
50% I got lucky and they walked to us and we shot them. And the other half we called to them and they came running in.
Yes. And in terms of your quarry, you spoke there about turkeys and deer, and obviously deer being your you like deer meat, Adam? Do you cook it yourself? Do you barbecue it? What's your favorite?
So I am not a cook whatsoever. I can't cook it good, but I know several people who do cook it good and we eat it. So
Yeah.
I give away more deer meat than I eat.
Yes.
We have programs where we can donate it to like homeless shelters and stuff like that.
Very good.
I donate a lot of deer. Last year we probably shot, I don't know, 6 or 7 deer.
Okay.
Last year I think I donated every single one. This year I shot a buck last week. I just went to the butcher and had that one done up. But I've got 2 freezers that are full of meat, and everybody knows in town they can come to my house and get some free meat because I'll give it to you.
Yeah, very good.
I got more meat than I'll ever be able to eat. But
Very
I
good.
do eat it. I do like to eat it. But me, myself, I'm not a good cook. My wife can cook, and I've got friends that cook. But if you try to ask me for a good deer recipe, I'd say I got no clue.
Good stuff. Well, look, that's you can't be good at everything, Adam. You just can't be good at everything. Is that it? Um, did you ever consider coming to Ireland to do a bit of hunting, or have you checked out our hunting over here and what we do?
Yeah, but it's expensive. Not to mention the plane tickets. But last year I kind of halfway seriously looked into it because I went to the is it the either the SCI convention or the Dallas Safari Club, one of the two. And I went to a bunch of, I guess, outfitters, what you'd call them, people that sell hunts in different countries.
Yes.
And Ireland was on the list of one of the guys that I was very interested in because of the type of deer.
Yeah.
And you would know more about this than I would. But um, Chinese water deer was one of them.
Now
Um,
that's
roe deer
that's the UK. So
and
we have three species over here: red, sika, and fallow. The UK has your Chinese water deer, your roe deer, your muntjac.
this outfitter was Ireland was definitely on his stops. It was kind of like you tell him what you want to shoot, and then he takes you hopping from country to country.
Very good. Very good.
Um, and he showed me. I wish I had the name of that off the tip of my tongue, but I had to look it up. But um, he was showing me pictures of some huge fallow deer, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, there's some.
We have fallow deer in the U.S. that people have imported, but he was showing me deer from over there, and I couldn't believe it to the point where I really wanted to go. But I mean, those type of deals, oh my goodness, you have to be a millionaire to be able to afford those hunts.
Well, look, we can definitely overcome some of that. If you can get your plane tickets, we'll uh, we'll get you out on some of the species anyway over here. If you're willing to come over at some stage, there's no problem there. We can arrange that. Um, we've
And that would be a lot of fun.
yeah,
How does
man.
that kind of work with you guys? Do you just get permission from the private landowners, or do they
Yeah, so
regulate how many you can shoot, or
yes, we have what we call landowners permission. So in certain pockets of land in Ireland, there's huge quantities of deer. Now, to put it in perspective, Adam, um, one morning it snowed here quite recently, a couple of weeks back, and I had shot a deer for the morning, and I was just doing a little bit of I only went up with the intention of shooting one deer, and I did that, and I said I'd do a little bit of scoping out for the rest of the morning just to see where some of the deer were hiding and what way they were acting in the cold weather and so on. And I came in through a little bit of a wood, and there was an open patch of a field, and what would it be? Probably 15, maybe 20 acres max. And I lost count of how many deer was in that at about, I'd say 120, 130. So um, there's huge numbers in certain pockets, areas. And then obviously, look, there's certain times of the year you can shoot um your stags or your hinds, so that kind of limits. But definitely, we've I'm personally, I have small bits of permission in terms of Sika. So you're familiar with Sika deer? Um, they're a really cool deer to
Yes, I've
hunt.
shot one.
Have you shot one?
I
We have
have. I
we
shot
have
it in Texas, in the U.S.
what you have Sika deer over there as well, do you? I didn't know that. I didn't
They're
know
not
that.
wild, but people have them on hunting ranches. Yeah.
Okay, okay, I didn't know that. I wasn't familiar with that. So yeah, we'd have
We
them
also
in
have that fallow deer. I've
okay.
I've shot two fallow deer,
Wow,
but
that's
it was
great.
in the U.S. too.
There you go, man. There you go. And reds, have you shot any red deer in any
We have in the U.S.
again the US?
Yeah.
And they would what you call imported deer, so they're brought into kind of estates and stuff like that. Is that the way it's done, Adam?
Yeah, exactly. Those they have them on those high fence ranches we were talking about.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it'd be really cool, man. There's some really cool what we call kind of rough shooting. So you have to go through a little bit of hardship. You're more than well used to that, but to get to certain areas. But like that, we've landowners' permission, and on them permissions, they hold different types of deer. So I'm lucky enough to have permission for both Sika and red, and then a buddy of mine has some fallow as well. So we kind of have the three species covered in terms of um, it doesn't always turn out that you can get the animal that you want, and more often than not, you're looking at an animal and you leave him on for another year, or it mightn't be a season. You might come across a stag when it's just out of season, etc. So, but yeah, no, it's really fun. It's some of my favorite hunting. And you have pheasants over there, Adam. Is that something you get after from time to time?
We don't have them. We don't have them where I live, but pheasants are similar to like how I was talking about mule deer and elk. They live in the western United States, so we don't have them anywhere near where I live. But
Okay.
I have hunted them, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's some of my favorite hunting. I think the sound of a pheasant getting up croaking is still gets me heart racing a little bit. Um, but definitely, dude, that's a very welcome invitation if you can get it together and you get a bit of free time. Um, we can definitely put it together. We'll get you over and we'll get you hunting some good Irish deer over here if you're up for it. That's a
That would be awesome.
absolutely, my man. Absolutely. Adam, I know I've taken up a huge amount of your time. I know you're extremely busy, and I'm sure you're either recording or uploading some new content pretty soon. I look forward to seeing more of it. I'm enthralled and addicted to your content. As I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to it are. I think it's really, really informative. It's easy to watch, easy to listen to. Continued success, my man. Keep doing what you're doing. And we're big fans over here. And thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You look after yourself, my man.
Try.
Take care, buddy.